Okay. Okay, the title of our class is Managing Buyers and Sellers. We are going to do a separate course on contact management system. And the contact management system that I use to teach that class, and I think it's coming up in a couple weeks, is actually Goldmine, and this is what you guys have seen on the screen. If you spend any amount of time with me at all, you see this on the screen regularly, because I live in this. And again, this program is called Goldmine. But when we do the contact management training class, you'll hear me talk about other programs. Top Producer is a really good one. I used to use Top Producer 15, 16 years ago. There's a program called ACT out there, which is relatively inexpensive and easy to use. But again, for all intents and purposes, they basically do similar things. Put in people's names, put in people's addresses, phone numbers, follow-up appointments, emails, scheduling, goals, all sorts of crazy things. Having said that, the class that we're doing today is we're going to spend a lot of time in my contact management system, but it is not the contact management class. So with that being said, I'm going to just kind of give you a brief overview. So our class, as a matter of fact, it's on my calendar. Video training, managing your buyers and sellers. That's what we're doing today. So when I'm talking about managing your buyers and sellers, and this, you could substitute this with anything. You could managing your buyers, managing your sellers, managing your escrows, which people might think, well, that's kind of the same. I'm working with my buyers and sellers. Managing my termite guy, managing my personal life, managing whatever. So from the perspective of where we're going to take this, I'm going to show you some tips and some techniques. Having said that, most everything that I'm going to be talking about in the next hour and a half, we definitely will not go longer than 2 hours, although I can go for 6. For the most part, I'm going to be doing based upon the idea that you will be using a computer software program to do this. Okay? Now, if you're not going to use some sort of software program to do this, it's the same concept as if you were using a file cabinet, because all that this computer program is, I've always wanted to use the visual, it's nothing other than a file cabinet. Okay? When I first got into, in fact, here's my file cabinet with all of my buyers, and here's my drawer that have my sellers. Okay? And the front part of my drawer is sellers that I'm supposed to call today. And in the middle of my drawer, those are the sellers that I'm supposed to call in February. And these are the sellers that are prospects that told me don't bother them until the summertime. Okay? And down here, these are sellers that I've worked with before and closed escrows on. And so the whole concept of the contact management system is really nothing other than taking the file cabinet, and at least from my perspective, get it into an electronic format, which I think challenges a lot of people. When I first got into the business, I can't remember what it was called, but it was expensive. I was introduced to a non-electronic contact management system, and it was basically nothing other than a big customized file cabinet. And it had things like birthdays, and it had what you would imagine. It would have January, February, March, April, May, June. And then if it was your birthday and your birthday was in January, you would get an index card. And that index card would say, your birthday, and when is it? Well, it's June 15th, and then we go to June, and we go to the 15th, and you'd go in the June 15th. Okay? Now, the challenge with that is if you also had a different anniversary date, maybe I wanted to keep track of the anniversary date on when I sold you your house last. Well, then I would have to have a different category of January through December. And that little file cabinet would be of when did I sell these people, when did their house close escrow. So now I'd have a separate index card that says, okay, we closed John's house on May 15th of 2010. And then I go into the May 15th, or my May, and that would remind me that every May I want to pull people out of that card catalog, and I would want to call them, hey, congratulations, it's been the 1-year anniversary since you bought your house. Or hey, congratulations, or send them a letter, or maybe do something like that. So that's old school technology, and that was technology. That was a management system. That was basically a managing buyers and sellers. Now, we're going to do this a little differently, and if you haven't attended the business planning class, it's on video. So if you're watching this on video, stop right now and go watch. And if you haven't already seen the business planning and goal setting class, then you need to go attend and watch the business planning and goal setting, because a lot of what we discussed in that class now flows through over to here. So one of the things that we talked about in that class, and I might have the, well, I don't have the sheets from that. Let me pretend. Let's just write some numbers up here real quick. Hold tight, let me get a marker. Okay. All right, one of the things we talked about in that class was prospective. Let's just pretend for a moment let's deal with our buyers. We want to manage buyers. Okay, well, one of the things we talked about in our business planning and time management and goal setting class was, how are we going to get buyers? Well, one of the ways we said we were going to get buyers was open houses. Okay? So, in that particular session, if you decided that you were going to hold open houses in the 2012 calendar year, and let's suppose you decided that you were going to hold 2 open houses a month, every month for this entire year. Okay, well that's 24 open houses. Let's suppose that that's maybe too many. Maybe I'm only going to do 1.5. So, but at any rate, that's 18 open houses. Let's suppose that's too many. Well, I'm only going to hold 12. I'm going to commit myself only to hold 1 open house a month. Well, that's still 12. And let's suppose some of your open houses have nobody come through. But let's suppose that some of those open houses, if you do it right, you could have 10, 20 people come through your open house. So let's be conservative and say some of them are just duds, but others you really did good, and your average number of qualified is a whole other story. The average number of prospects that come through your open houses is 5. Well, 5, that's 60 people. Okay? So if you just did 1 open house a month, and you ended up making 5 contacts, that's 60. Now, if you're only dealing with 1 buyer, you don't need any of this, because we all can manage 1 buyer. You don't need a computer, you don't need a file cabinet, you don't need much of anything. You can just put them, program. Oh, that's technology. I was going to say you could put their name and phone number into your phone. You can write them on a yellow pad. You do whatever you want to do, but we will collectively go broke if we're just managing 1 buyer at a time. So this is how managing these buyers works. Let's pretend over a period of a year, and this is just one source of prospecting. Keep in mind, 1 open house, 1 day a month for 12 months, we're going to get 60 people. Well, what are we doing the other 29 days in the month? Well, we should be doing something else, right? We should be making some type of contact. If you just make a commitment, which by the way, if you make the following commitment, you'll be doing better than most of the real estate agents, not only in our market area, but probably most of the agents working in our office. If you make a commitment to find 1 new prospect a day, just 1, well, you'll end up with 365, or let's suppose you don't work every day, you'll at least end up with probably 250 or 300 prospects in a 12-month period. If our life depended on it, could we go find 1 new buyer or seller prospect a day? Yeah, I think you should be able to find that in the supermarket this evening. Seriously. If you're going to, honestly, this might be a little annoying, and this might not be something that we want to practice as a part of our prospecting rule, but if you're just, If you go to the supermarket buying groceries and you put on your Coldwell Banker shirt and you put on the back of it, hey, I'm a realtor, ask me, you know, for information, and then maybe you pass out a couple of business cards in the aisle, you know, I bet you $1 by the end of the day or within 20 minutes, somebody will say, yeah, they might turn a bunch of people off. Hey, I'm trying to shop here. Leave me alone. What are you doing over here? And you get the idea. We all could find one a day. All right? So this is how it's going to work. Let's pretend I'm having an open house. Okay? And somebody comes through, and we're just going to call it, you know, John Buyer. Okay? I've got John Buyer. Oops. By the way, I'm gonna do a lot of what we're gonna do in this class today. I'm going to do very quickly. Okay. Having said that, in other words, when I type something in, I might have a typo, or there may be some problems. I will tell you, as a matter of practice and database management and managing your buyers and sellers, take your time, put it in properly. Okay, for a bunch of reasons. You know, you've all heard the garbage in, garbage out. Well, that's a computer term. If you put, you know, that's the GIGO or the GIGO, whatever, G-I-G-O. If you put bad information in, you get bad information out. A perfect example, matter of fact, I'm going to just add this buyer right here and I'm going to stop. I'm, right now, as we speak in this training, I have, in my outbox, I have 14,773 emails that I'm waiting to send. In my total contact management system, there's 48,733 contacts in my system. 50,000 almost, okay? Now at the first of every year, I like to do what a lot of people see is you ever get that email from somebody that says Happy New Year from Joe? And you know that Joe sent that same email to a whole bunch of other people. It's not just a special, not to me, okay? Well, I started doing that on January 1st, and I had 20, out of my 48,000 people in the system, I have 21,000 of them that have email addresses. So on Sunday afternoon, this past Sunday, I had 21,000 emails that I was sending, and since then I've sent a little over 6,000 of the 21,000. I have 14,773 left. The system is shooting out approximately 200 emails an hour, okay? Because if I was to send all 14,000 at once, then I get marked as a spammer, okay? Computer gods up there say, oh, somebody at Pioneer Real Estate is spamming 21,000 people, and then I get blocked as a spammer. So we're only sending out a couple thousand a day, okay? Because I don't want to be a spammer. Having said that, of the 6,000 or so that I've already sent, I have a problem. I have a garbage in, garbage out problem. And part of that is 982 of the 6,000 I've already sent, which is well over, I mean, it's about 15%, have come back to me as undeliverable. There's a problem. Now, some of those problems are, getting back to my John Buyer, is some of those problems are self-inflicted. The reason that the people are not getting their email is because I did a real down and dirty, real quick email entry, okay? And instead of taking the time when John Buyer told me his email was jbuyer at AOL.com, I wasn't paying attention and I typed it in wrong. And I didn't, instead of putting John Buyer, maybe I spelled it wrong, okay? So it sounds silly, but if you're going to take the time to sit on the open house, and if you're going to take the time to talk to John Buyer and his wife and his 4 kids, and if you're going to take the time to ask the question, what's your phone number, what's your email, then take the time to get it into your system properly. Because there's nothing more frustrating than, I've had this happen, this happens to me at least once a week. Someone will call looking for me, and either at the front desk or myself, the message will get to me, and I will have transposed a phone number. Okay? I do that all the time. And most of the time I do it because I'm just in a hurry, I'm moving too fast, and it's and on occasion, not that they're not all important calls, but this guy wanted to write an offer today. And not only can I not call him back, but on the other side, he's thinking, this son of a gun's not calling me back. He doesn't care. He doesn't want my business. So anyway, putting the information in properly is important. Okay, now, I'm going to leave a lot of information blank just for time's sake. But we put in our John Buyer, we can, sources. Sources are important. Whether you use a source on the computer or whether you go back to that file cabinet, you may have a source in your Rolodex. And one of those sources may be open house leads. So if you're not going to use a computer, then you need to have some sort of system that says these 60 leads are from open houses. And I want you to take those, put them on an index card. I don't care. If this is the technology doesn't work for you, then you need to have an index card in a file cabinet, and the file cabinet needs to have a section that says open houses, and you need to have an index card with John Buyer's name on it, with all of his contact information, or at least a method to get it, and you need to put it in the open house system, because that's where he came from. So under source, if I'm working with John Buyer, I may already have an open house source. I have a lot of sources in my system, but I'm not really an active buyer's agent anymore. So I've kind of purged my system a little bit. Okay, I don't have it, so I'm going to make a new one here real quick. Yeah, I'm going to make open house. Okay. And there it is. Okay, so now every time I see, this for a minute. Every time I see John Buyer, I know where I got John. Okay? He came from an open. Now I could be more specific. Maybe I want to separate out Sunday open houses from Saturday open houses. Now that might be ridiculous, but if you're a big open house person, and we said we're only going to do one open house a month, there's agents that do open houses 6 days a week. Okay? That's all they do. Yes, there's nothing wrong. You can have an open house on a Tuesday afternoon. You know, depending on the marketplace and the location of the property. There's lots of properties in this town that would make perfect sense to hold an open house on a Thursday afternoon. A lot of drive-by traffic maybe, you know, certain times of the day, great access. You know, there's no rule that says you have to have an open house on a Sunday. But at any rate, we could have open house dash Sunday, open house dash Saturday, open house Tuesday, open house Sunday from 10 to noon, open house, there's a short one, I just, on Sundays for, you know, I only want to do a 2-hour open house. Or open house Sunday from 12 to 4. Now why would we do all of these? The reason you want to have as many different sources as possible, number one, is you want to know where the lead came from, but you also want to know what works. So, in other words, if you did an equal number of open houses on Saturday and Sunday, let's suppose 12 is a hard sample, but let's suppose we had 24 open houses that we did this year. I think it would be interesting at the end of the year to sit back and take a look at, look at that. I get 3/4 of my leads on my Saturday open houses and only 1/4 on my Sunday open houses. Who would have thought? I thought my Sunday open houses produce better results. Okay? A lot of this managing buyers and sellers is not just managing them, it's measuring them. Okay? What is a more productive way for me to find these buyers and sellers? So after a period of time, you may determine, and we'll see how this comes together in a little bit, you may determine that Saturday open houses are better than Sunday open houses, which would mean, guess what? Maybe we don't hold Sunday open houses anymore. Okay? So, and then for now, let's just keep it simple. We have our source open house. Now, of course, if we can get this information, which, by the way, let's do fill out a little bit more information. Buyer's name is John Byers, last name is Byers, first name is John. The reason that that's important is when I subsequently want to send John an email or when I want to send him a letter, I want to be able to merge and I want to do a mail merge. and I want to mail merge John, and I want the letter to start, Dear John, thank you for attending my open house on 123 Main Street. I hope you found the property to your liking. Please don't hesitate to call me if you want additional information. Sincerely, Lance Martin, broker, Coldwell Banker Town Real Estate. Now, I can make a very simple, this is part of contact management, this is part of buyer management. I'm not going to get into this because that's a whole other 2-hour class. But within the system, we can have a whole bunch of templates and documents. And some of those documents could basically be canned emails. Okay? This is just a canned email. This is an email actually that I send out to the real estate agents here in the office. But this email could say the same thing. It could be my open house email. And if I have all the information correctly, I don't have to type that email. I don't have to type that letter. The letter's already typed for me. All I have to do is I have to go to the computer and say, send my open house letter to John. Click. And as long as I have all this information in there correctly, it populates everything in there. Dear John. Now, if I don't have John here, right, has anybody ever gotten a letter in the mail when you read the addressee, you kind of laugh a little bit? Because it's like, the computer messed this one up. You know, that your name is spelt wrong, your first name is in your last name, the comma's in a weird spot, they have your middle name as your first name, or it's just not right. Okay? Well, the reason
don't get no respect.
Right. Well, exactly. And you instantly know that you just got a form letter, correct? You just got a canned form letter, and maybe that piece of mail might just end up straight into the trash before you even go any further. That's why getting all this information in the computer correctly the first time is important, because if you don't get it right, and you're not going to look at every one of these letters after you have 40,000 people, you can't look at 40,000 letters when you're going to send them out. They're going to spit out of the computer, and if it doesn't, and instead of saying J-O-H-N, if it says J-H-N, buyer, John's obviously going to know that, somebody wasn't very careful, they don't even spell my first name right. So at any rate, let's pretend we have his address in here. There's another thing over here which is a contact type. Very important. Now, the guy is from an open house, right? Mm-hmm. But, is he a buyer? Is it possible that you could have a seller come to an open house? Or a seller prospect? Absolutely. Okay? So, the source says, where did I get you? I got you from an open house. In this particular contact management system, the contact type is, what are you? Who are you? What type of contact are you? Well, in this particular, I have a whole bunch in here, so I'm just going to scroll down. Right now, let's just assume that this is somebody that I haven't worked with before, and they're a seller, but they're not my seller. They're a prospect. So I have a contact type is prospect, comma, listing. So they're a listing prospect, which is what? That's a seller, right? So let's just pretend that. Oh, actually, maybe I should change that because his name is John Buyer. Let's not confuse ourselves a little bit. So let's make John Buyer a buyer prospect. That might be a little bit better. Okay. So John Buyer is a prospect, comma, buyer. So I select that, and that pops it in over here. So now I have two very important pieces of information when it comes to managing my buyers. Number one, who are you? Well, John. Where did I get you? I got you from open house. What are you? Well, you're a prospect and you're also a buyer. Okay? I'm going to put just a couple more really quickly into the computer just for illustration's sake. So let's put Sally, buyer. And what's our source? She came into that same open house. And over here, she's a prospect, right? And she's a buyer. Okay, so again, if I had more information, it'd be nice, of course, if I don't have a phone number or an email or a mailing address, I got nothing. All I got is a name. Okay? I will tell you though, I have a lot of names in my computer. I have a lot of names in my computer with bad phone numbers and bad email addresses. And you know what? I leave them in my computer because you'd be surprised how many people will call me later. They will call me up and say, hey, I met you at an open house. What was your name? Sally Buyer. I type them in. And say, oh yeah, Sally, I did meet you at an open house, and that was back in January of 2012. And you know what? I'm so glad you called because I put you in my computer, but I didn't have your phone number, and I typed your email address in wrong, and I didn't have a mailing address, and now after 15 years, we're reunited. Okay? It happens all the time. Okay? So anyway, now I've got Sally. I'm just going to put one more in here for illustration purposes. And let's put Fred Buyer in here. Okay, and he came from that same open house. And he's a buyer prospect. Okay? So, there he is. And okay. Alright. So now what I have is I have the ability at a later date. Now we only have 3 in here, right? We have 3 open house sources and we have 3 prospect buyers. So at a later date, let's pretend we have 60. Let's pretend we have 160. Let's pretend we have 360. Now managing 3 is pretty easy. You can do that on your yellow memo pad. You can easily do that in a Rolodex. Okay? But you're not going to make a career in real estate and make any sort of significant amount of income working with 3 buyers. You're going to need to talk to dozens and hundreds, if not thousands. Okay? So, now this is the nice part about this. There's a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm just going to do it really quickly. If I double click on the word source, and let me cancel this. Something magical has happened. Again, how many people do I have in the database? I have 48,000 people. I've double clicked on the word source. Let's take this out. Let's put another source in here. Sources that start with affiliate, or sources that start with asset management company. There's hundreds and hundreds of them in here. Okay? But I don't want to work on those. I decide this afternoon I want to work on my open house people. Right? So I click on source, I type in open house, and then all of a sudden Fred, John, and Sally magically appear. Okay? Now, if I have 3 people that are from the source open house, or if I have 45,000 people that are on the source open house, it works exactly the same. So now I've isolated my open house people. Okay? Same thing with the index. It's the equivalent of going to the drawer, pulling out the file cabinet that is open house. Now there's 3 index cards in there. Or there's 303 index cards in it. This is why I don't like file cabinets. Because if I had a file cabinet with 48,000 cards in it, do things get lost and misfiled and not in the right spot? Of course they do. It's very, very problematic. Okay, so let me kind of show you a little bit more about how this will work. Now, what happens, let's suppose I call Fred Buyer. I'm like, hey Fred, Lance Martin, Coldwell Banker, Pioneer Real Estate. I met you at the open house on 123 Main Street last Saturday. You had expressed some interest. You told me it would be okay if I followed up. I'm following up. You want to get together Saturday to look at houses? Sure. Ooh. Okay. Now Fred is changing from a prospect buyer into what? Is he still a prospect buyer, or is he becoming my buyer?
It's like a hot lead.
Okay, he's a hot lead.
Yeah.
All right. Now this is where you guys have to spend some time, and you have to figure out how you want to sort them out. Now, in my database, I have a contact type called buyer. So I may now want to change him from a buyer prospect to a buyer. All right? And now I know, but again, where did he come from? Well, he still came from that open house, but now he's no longer a prospect. I've moved him into a different category. I've moved him into the buyer category. Or if you want to have a hot prospect or a hot lead, it's simple. Matter of fact, let's do that. Let's just, now again, this is gold mine. Any contact management program will do this. Top producer will do this. ACT will do this. All of them will do it. So don't get hung up on me doing gold mine. If you want to call them hot lead, hot buyer lead. Okay, I just created that. And bam. Okay, now Fred is a hot buyer lead, right? Let me just do one other. You guys already probably know where I'm going with this. Let's suppose I'm now going through my open house list, and now I call John. Okay? John, Lance Martin, Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. I want to thank you for coming to my open house this past Saturday. It seemed like you were in a hurry. And oh, and by the way, how's Johnny doing? What? Yeah, your son Johnny. I saw you guys leave, and I saw you slammed his finger in the door, and he was crying. How's Johnny doing? Okay? I'm not kidding. So if I had that information, John Buyer, as John Buyer is leaving my open house and his son is screaming in pain because his finger got slammed into the door. Additional contacts. New. Johnny. J-O-H-N-Y. Johnny is the son. And I don't have his phone number to make a note. Big John slammed Little John's hand in the whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, they said they loved the property because it had a big backyard for Fido. Okay? I gotta tell you, this is what separates the good agents from the great agents. Because when you call that prospect up and you have this information and you can recall it, you make a connection. Especially if it's one thing to do it 3 or 4 days later, but let's suppose you lost contact with this buyer and you're calling them a month later. Okay? And let's suppose this agent, or this buyer rather, let's suppose John Buyer had not committed to a realtor yet, had been visiting open houses every weekend for a month, and now all of a sudden which by the way, I have no quantitative proof of this, but I would suggest that the vast majority of buyers that visit open houses, number one, do not leave or are never asked to leave their contact information with the agent. And the ones that do leave their contact information or are asked to leave their, which by the way, if you ask somebody, oh, would you mind filling out my register? And you have on there name, address, phone number, which by the way, if you do that, never leave it blank. I don't care if nobody's been, you put 4 people's name on there. Put your sister and her address and her phone number and whatever other information you want, and you fill it out completely. You put 3 or 4. It's amazing if you do that, the people who sign below that will do what the people on top of them did. If you give them a blank sheet, name, address, phone number, and are you going to buy this year, maybe you'll just get a name. But if they see 5 other people before them, gave you their address and their phone number, and they answer the question, do you plan on buying a house in the next 3 months? And you yes, 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 or no, or whatever. They'll do that. I mean, is there some trickery into that? Okay. Call it trickery. I don't know. But we're trying to sell some stuff here. Okay? So at any rate, now it's a month's gone by. I know, the point I was trying to get is, I would venture a guess that most agents that get a list of 60 buyers, they have the name, they have a phone number, they have some information, and guess what they do with it?
Nothing.
Who said nothing? Nothing. They do nothing with it. No system, no management. Really, most realtors, and this is a sad commentary, I'm going to hold open house this weekend, honey. Oh, and by the way, if all the people that come through, if they don't buy today, I'm not interested in them. If they don't write an offer today, I have no intention of calling them back. I'm not interested. What? You spent 4 hours at this open house. You had 5 people give you some contact information. You have 4 hours invested. The least you could do would be to follow up with them, manage them, call them back. Now, having said that, let's suppose John fell off your radar for a little bit, and he falls off your radar, and then you happen to call him a month later, which, by the way, you want to have a note in here. And you do this while you're sitting at the property. Hold on a second, my computer's moving a little slow. When John comes in, while I'm at my open house, I'm going to have an action in here, follow up, open house lead. Okay? And then I'm going to type a little note, January 3rd, 2012. By the way, I always put the dates in here because I have 48,000 people in my database. Are there several people I've talked to in the past? Do I remember when I talked to them? You know, boy, it seems like it was just a month or two ago that I talked to you. You go into the system, wow, that was 3 years ago. Okay? People like that when you can recall dates and where you met them and all the rest. Hey, the last time I talked to you was January 10th of 2001. You're kidding me. Yeah, that's right. I have a message right here. We talked about little Johnny you slammed your son's door. Hand in the door. But this is where you want to put the notes. And when do you do this? The client just left your open house. You probably have a little downtime. You take 60 seconds. They really liked the house. Oh, by the way, the dad slammed little Johnny's hand in the door on the way out. Let me make sure I ask about that when I call back. Lance. And then when am I going to schedule it? I'm going to schedule it. I'm going to call him the following Friday whenever I do it. And I click it and it shows up on my calendar. Well, let's pretend I made a mistake and I meant to call them on the following Monday, but for some reason it went out a month. Okay? I accidentally put them on my calendar for a month later. Well, now I'm not going to call this guy back up till February 3rd. Darn it, I messed up. Well, I wanted to call him like on January 4th, but I screwed up. Well, but you know, that's better than what most agents do. You now have something in the computer. At least you're going to call him. Give me a piece of paper. This is what most agents do. This is why you're not allowed to give me a Post-it note. Let's just pretend this is a Post-it note. Okay? Or a little piece of paper, and, you know. Put that in there. I'm going to call that guy up tomorrow when I get in the office. Okay? Then you get home, you take off your coat, put your pants on the floor. Somebody else, I was going to say your wife, but you know, somebody in the house, you or maybe your wife or your husband, picks up your laundry and
Plus the note is gone.
right. Or it slides under the seat of your car, or it doesn't go anywhere. It's gone. It's useless. It's Matt, you are not allowed to put a Post-it note anywhere in my office to call somebody back. You're not allowed to do that in the office.
Or you're going through your closet and 2 years later you find and you say, what's this little thing in
Right.
the pocket here?
Right.
You know, it's like, that's
It happens all the time. Notoriously, what do we do in our business? We reach into our thing, we get out a business card. Oh, let me get your info. Right on the back of my card, right? I cannot tell, and I'm a contact management freak, okay? I write people's names and phone numbers on business cards all the time. I don't always have my computer available. It might seem like it, but I don't always. And you know what? Honest to God, Scout's honor, I have about a 50% chance that gets lost, right? We all do it, and we have the best intentions of the world to call them up, to put them in the computer. And then what happens? It's, oh, crud. There's that guy's phone number. I found it. Oh, shoot. I told him I was going to call him 2 weeks ago. Now I feel like an idiot. Because the guy was a hot lead. He was at my open house. I promised him I was going to call him on Monday. It's 2 weeks later. Jeez, I won't do that. God forbid I embarrass myself. You know,
It's worse when you call them and, oh, I just submitted another offer.
all the time. All the time. So anyway, we want to get him in here. Okay? Now getting back to my example, we do call John. We tell him, hey, how's little Johnny doing? I hope his hand is feeling better. And we've now turned him into a hot buyer lead. Okay? So we started with our 3 prospect buyers. We've now and by the way, maybe they're hot buyer leads from the moment you meet them. Okay? Is that possible? Of course it's possible. The people that basically say, oh, thank you very much, I'm not interested, don't call me, I'll call you. Those are prospect buyers. Those are the ones you're going to, hey, I know you said not to call you, that you call me, but I'm a salesman. I don't always do what I'm told. You were in my open house. I know you said you hated it. But you were kind enough to give me your phone number. There's some other properties in the neighborhood. You obviously like ABC neighborhood. You like Sunnymead Ranch, otherwise you wouldn't have been through my open house. There's more than one house for sale in Sunnymead Ranch. Was I even in the ballpark? Price range, neighborhood, condition, location, size. You know, we're salespeople. Sell them. So at any rate, we now have 2 hot buyer leads. Now on Monday, we clicked on our open house leads, and they came up, and Fred and John and Sally. All right. So we decided, and I won't get into this, but you can filter the system. So now all of a sudden I create a call list, and my call list is you just go down the list, Fred and Sally, blah, blah, blah. Now on Tuesday, you want to go through and you want to go straight down and go to the hot buyer leads. Now you come over here to contact type, and guess what it's going to give me? It's going to give me just the 2 hot buyer leads. Okay? So now I've got Fred Buyer and John Buyer. These are my hot ones. Okay? Now let's just take Fred. We take Fred out and we show him property. Our prospecting efforts are bearing fruit. We held the open house. He was a prospect. We made a phone call. He said, I'm interested. We made a second appointment. We showed him property. And then what? By the miracle of all miracles, he wants to buy, write an offer. Okay? Okay? Now maybe we have a different contact type for those people. So Fred went from a prospect to a hot buyer lead, and now he's a, what do we got? Maybe we got a, let's see if I had a, yeah, I'm going to make a new one. And this may not be the best way to, oops. Cancel. Offers written. Offer written. Okay, now again, if you have one buyer that's written an offer, you don't need this, because you can do that on one index card or on one memo pad. Okay, but assuming you're working with multiple buyer leads, multiple open house source leads, you may want to have a contact type, which is now, these are the 6 people that I'm working with that have written offers. Okay? I know those people, those agents exist because I talk to them all the time. I call buyers' agents up that have written offers on my properties, and I say, hey, I'm calling you about your buyers that wrote an offer on 123 Main Street. And they're like, which one? You know, I don't know, I think their name's John. And the buyer's agents are telling me, dude, I've written offers for 20 different buyers that are pending right now. Wow. I bet you they have a system. I bet you they have a system that says who they are and what stage of, are they prospects, are they hot, are they in the process of being shown, have they written offers, maybe we can change this to offer accepted, in escrow, whatever it happens to be. So you categorize all of these leads in that fashion. So that way you know how you can manage these groups. Now let me give you a little different example, kind of more of a fun example. This is the exact same concept as what we've been going through before, but we're not going to call them buyers, we're not going to call them sellers. I like to play poker. Okay? So, I have a group similar to a prospect buyers, hot buyer lead, whatever you want to call it. I have a group of poker players. This is highlighted. These are the people that I play poker with on a regular basis. Okay? So, if I wanted to play poker next Friday, I could very easily, matter of fact, let's make a new, I don't want to send this out to, I'll show you how quickly this works. Let's make a new group. New poker players. Okay, build it. And we're going to do supplemental contact data. Oops, I probably need to fix this first. Actually, let's try this a little bit differently. Let's take, oops, I'm sorry. I should have built this before I got here. Let's take me. Okay. These are a bunch of different groups that I'm in. Matter of fact, one of these, if I scroll down here, is a poker player group. Okay. I want to make a new group. I want to say Lance is part of the new poker players. Okay. So here's my contact, Lance. Here's my group, new poker players. How many people are in my group? 1. Now again, this could just be the same as buyer prospects. How many people are in my buyer prospects? 1. How many people are in my hot lead prospects? 1. How many people are in my offer written? 1. Okay, so now I've got 1. Who else wants to join my poker group? Let's say, how about Drew? Drew wants to play poker. So I come down here and I'm going to do new. And bam, watch this. How many people are in my new poker player group? 2. Anybody else? Maybe Brian wants to play. Brian, new poker player group. Okay, you see how this works. Okay? Now, remember what we talked about earlier? If I talk to 1 prospect a day, buyer, seller, anything, I put him in my group, and the next thing you know, and if I got 3, I got 10, I got 20, I got 30, I got 50, I got 60, I got whatever, and then you filter them out. Now, let's say I want to play poker today. I go to my email center. Now this assumes I have all these people's email, right? If I don't have their email, it's not going to work very much. New message, and I want to say, let's play poker. Okay? Hey guys, let's get together next Tuesday. I want to play poker. Or, hey open house people, thank you for attending my open house in the month of January. If you haven't bought a house yet and you're still interested, give me a call. Because then maybe you're going to have a different group, and it's going to be my January 2012 open house prospects, my February 2012 open house prospects. And then maybe in February, you send an email to all of your January 2012 open house prospects, and you type them an email that is specific to the January open house. So you could send this email to these 3 people that say, thank you for attending my open house in the month of January. I'm just following up to see if you purchased. If not, do you plan on it? Can I help you? So on and so forth. But in this case, I want to send an email to these poker players. I typed in my little email. I go here, I do a mail merge. Pay attention to that. And every contact management system, everyone has this ability. Okay, this is Goldmine. Don't get hung up on Goldmine. I get the, oh, Lance, you're a Goldmine guy. It has nothing to do with Goldmine. Every contact management system does this. Okay? And I want to go down, I want to find my new poker group. Maybe it's at the bottom. Don't ask me why it's not alphabetical. There it is. There's my new poker players. We created that on the fly. We created that while we were sitting here. My new poker players, we created this dummy email template. Now I'm going to click send. What did I just do? I sent 3 emails to my 3 poker player groups. If I had had 3,000 people in my poker player group and I click send, I just sent 3,000 emails. If you have 60 in your open house prospect group, then you just sent 6. How easy is that? How manageable is that? Now the same thing, oh wait a minute, I don't like email, that's not personal. I want to send a letter. I want to put a 44-cent stamp on it. Well, first of all, I'm sending right now, I told you, I I still have 14,773 emails to send. Last year was the last year I sent Christmas cards in the mail. Okay? For 2 reasons.
Expensive.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I know. I send them out too. I'm one of the last ones.
Well, this is my problem. Now, we send them to our family, but I've got 48,734 contacts. Not all of them have valid addresses, okay? But I didn't want to, I couldn't afford, I guess I could have if I budgeted for it, but I did not budget to send out 44,000 cards with envelopes at 44 cents a piece. That's gonna be a few dollars, right? So you know what I did last year? I pared it down to 5,000. You know how hard that was? It was hard. I had to go through into my database and I had to filter down from the 49,000 to 5,000. Then I had to print the envelopes, and when it was all said and done, I spent 5,000 bucks. I spent about 56 cents approximately for the envelope and the card, you know, the Pioneer Real Estate Merry Christmas card, and 44 cents in postage. It cost $1 each, okay? And I only sent it to a small fraction of my database. Now, do people enjoy getting a nice Christmas card in the mail better than maybe getting an email? Okay, I would argue that they do. But how much did this cost me? How much are my 21,000 emails costing me that went out?
Nothing.
How long did it take to do it?
Seconds.
Seconds. Now, are some of my clients, oh, Lance just spammed me. Okay? But what did they say? They said, Lance just spammed me. Lance contacted me. Lance was in my face. Okay? Now, if I'm going to send them email spams every 3 weeks, I'm probably going to make some of them upset. But if some of these 48,000 people only hear from me once a year, and by the way, this is the email that I sent out. It can't get any more basic than this. You want to see one? Coming up right here. These are the ones that are yet to be sent. This is my next group of 200 is going to fire. The email, the header says, best wishes for a great... Has anybody in this room got my email yet? You're going to get one because you are all on my contact management system. You're just not in the group yet. Okay? It says, best wishes for a great 2012. That's the header. And then on the actual... Let me show it to you this way. It's a little easier to see. That looks more like an email. Okay. From Lance to Desiree Reddy. Best wishes for a great 2012. Looking forward to a great 2012. Happy New Year. Lance Mark. Now, for some people, the only contact that they will get from me ever, or at least once a year, is this email. So, for Mr. Reddy, who happens to be a property management client of ours, last year, it cost me $1 to send him a traditional, what's I say, postcard, Christmas card.
Christmas
Okay.
card, yeah.
This year, it cost me nothing. And by the way, I don't know if we have correct information for him, but if I have, this is another thing that's kind of terrible. Let's suppose I have a wrong address for Mr. Reddy, or he's moved. Guess how, of those 5,000 Christmas cards I did send, guess how many of them came back undeliverable? About $1,000 worth.
Really? How much?
About 20% of them I had some sort of a problem. Ouch. Wasted. Guess what happens of the emails that I sent out that bounced back that said the 982 that said you got a problem with your email address. How much did that cost me? Nothing. Zero. Nada. So, from a contact management standpoint, this is important, okay? And let's just look at this particular. Let's pull this guy randomly. Under pending, I have some things going on with this guy actually. It's kind of interesting that I picked him. I have this email, which by the way, let's just send him this email real quick. Let's suppose I'm talking to him. Or I'm not talking, I just pulled him up, and let's go ahead and open it. And bam, okay. Now, I just sent him that email, so I took it out of my queue, and instead of him waiting, he just got his email right now. But there's 3 other things going on with him. This guy is working, which by the way, if you have an assistant, this is mandatory by the way, okay? Mandatory. New company policy. I'm making a policy. Actually, we have very few policies in this office. This is not one. But if this applies to you, this should be a policy. If you are an agent who has risen to the level that you are capable, not capable because we're all capable of it, but you have made a decision to hire an assistant, you now have a helper. Mandatory. You have to go out and get a contact management system immediately. Okay? Now, that's up to you. I don't make those type of decisions in your business plan. But if you don't, you're nuts. And I'll tell you why. Erica works in my office. She's technically my assistant. She's technically my accountant, but for all intents and purposes, she's an employee of me and she's my assistant. Erica has 3 things going on with my client. My assistant is working with my client. There's an email and some actions. He's a rental. It has something to do with some rent that's due. Okay? What happens if Erica quits? Or what happens if Erica gets fired? What follow-up do I have with my assistant who's been talking to my client if I don't have some sort of system in place? Well, I got a problem. I got a big, big problem because she just quit and I have no idea what she's doing with whose clients? With my clients. So let's get back to our open house people. Let's pretend that this particular client is an open house prospect, and let's pretend we have so many of these prospects that you've hired an assistant, and your assistant is the one who's going through, and he or she is calling up your clients and saying, hey, this is Sally, or this is Erica. I work with Lance. You came through his open house, and he asked me to call you to see if you might be interested. And let's suppose this guy says, yes, I am interested. I'd like to make an appointment. I want to see something. So Erica puts the notes in. That same afternoon, Erica and I get into a dispute and she quits. Well, guess what I get to do? I go over here. I go to the calendar. I go to Erica's calendar. Erica. Everything that Erica is doing, I have. I can see 100% of everything that she's done. Let's pretend for a moment that Erica, I'm not going to do this, and if you're watching this on video, it'll be almost impossible to see. But there's Erica. This is not her whole calendar, but it's enough of her calendar. These are all of the things that I've been paying Erica to do for the last 3 years while she's been working for me. She has now quit. Am I panicking? No, because I just replaced Erica. Erica's replacement is Sandy. I'm not going to do this because Erica didn't quit and I didn't fire her. But if I was to say, what I've just done is I said, hey computer, everything that Erica has ever worked on in her relationship with me, I want you to put in a box. And I want you to take that box and I want you to deliver it to Sandy. And if I clicked the word rollover, everything on Erica's calendar would now be on Sandy's calendar. And if I was to pull Sandy's calendar up, which is probably going to be pretty thin, this is Sandy's calendar. And then I call Sandy and say, hey Sandy, it's Lance, you know, your boss. Guess what? Erica quit today. Everything on her calendar is now on your calendar. You might want to spend some time going through there. Or I put it on my calendar. Maybe I don't have a replacement for her right away. So I roll it over to my calendar. So if you have an assistant or more than one assistant, and by the way, I still think you all should make a commitment and you should all basically make a rule. Whether you have an assistant or not, you should commit to some sort of electronic management, contact management system. Okay, buyer-seller system. It's very, very important. But if you do have an assistant, it's just that easy to manage. You know, I had a very key person that worked with me that recently we no longer work together. It was a bumpy road. it would have been a disastrously bumpy road had I not had the ability to manage those contacts in this fashion. Okay, getting back to specifically buyers and sellers, let me give you a couple other little tricks. Okay, let's pretend for a moment, let's take one of our buyer leads and let's turn them in. Let's pretend Fred Buyer is actually a seller. He's a listing now. Okay, and let's pretend that Fred owns a house on 123 Main Street. Okay, one of the things that we do. Matter of fact, let me show you a real one actually. Nah, let's just pretend. Let's just do this one for now. Let's just do our 123 Main Street. And again, I'm going to do this real down and dirty. This is not how we would normally do it, but okay, put them over here. I'll just stop right there for now. Let's pretend Fred owns this house. When you take a listing, are there certain things that you do when you take a listing? Put up a for sale sign, get some disclosures, maybe order a termite report, put on a lockbox, right? Do most of us have a checklist? Have a checklist of things that we do when it comes to managing our sellers? And again, maybe this is not only managing our sellers, but it's managing our sellers' listings, okay? So some of those things that we do, I've listed a few of them, and most all of us for years have had, we have checklists, right? We have checklists of things that we do every time we get a new listing. So my system I'm advocating, also has checklists. It's filled with checklists, except they're not paper checklists, they're electronic checklists. All right? And let's just pretend aha. Okay, let's just pick this one. This is a listing, new, regular. I guess today we would call this a standard sale. Back when I first created this, I was distinguishing between an REO listing and a regular sale. Apparently regular wasn't good enough, so we decided to call it a standard sale. But let's just choose this one for the moment. Now, look at what I've done. I've made a couple 3 mouse clicks. I have Fred Sellers listing on 123 Main Street up. I've said I have an automated process for a new listing, and I want to attach it to Fred's property, and I click OK. I think if we went back and we actually clicked the number of mouse clicks we did, it's probably 7. Okay? Now what I just did automatically is that checklist that we talked about. I've created a checklist of all of the things that I need to do for 123 Main Street. And I know this is impossible to see on the video, but let's go through a few of them. These are a few of the things that you do, right? For sale sign. Is that important? Yep, better get that up. Put on a combination lockbox. Yep. Put on a super lockbox. Take photos. Order the termite inspection. Let's just stop there for a moment. I've been doing this for 25 years now. The first several years I was in the business, I learned the hard way that it's best to order a termite inspection as soon as you take the listing. Don't wait until you open escrow, or certainly don't wait until 3 days before you're going to close escrow. But I learned the hard way. And I learned the hard way because of the following. Number one, I took the listing, I sit down, I list the Snaggles house. Okay? You have confidence in me, I've got your property listed. I failed to mention that more than likely the buyer is going to request a termite inspection because I'm new and I don't know what I'm doing. And then I realized that when an offer comes in, the buyers have asked for a termite inspection, and not only have they asked for a termite inspection, they've asked you guys to pay for the inspection and whatever cost of correction there is, right? Everything on the offer is acceptable to your seller. Everything's acceptable. Price, terms, closing date, it's perfect. Except there's one problem. the buyer has asked for you to pay for the termite inspection and the correction, and we don't know how much that correction is going to be, if anything. Okay? So I immediately have a problem in my negotiation because we don't know what it's going to cost. So because of that, I learned a lesson. When I sat down and took my listings, I would tell the seller immediately, hey, tomorrow we're going to order a termite inspection. Okay? Yeah, I know it's going to cost you $50, but you need one anyway. And quite honestly, whether you were going to sell the house or not, you probably want to know if you got any termites. So let's spend $50 and let's get a termite inspection. And then we're going to know if we have a problem. And if we do have a problem, we're going to know how much it's going to cost to get it fixed. And if it's a huge amount, we're going to know right now whether we should go out and get a second termite inspection and get a second bid, right? So, or you do what's even worse. You agree, oh yeah, sure, fine, we'll go ahead and pay for the termite. You don't have the report, and then you forget because you wrote it on the back of that sticky card. Oh, order termite inspection on 123 Main Street. Put that in my pocket. And then guess what happened? It goes into the laundry, and then you forgot. And then how do you get remembered? Or how do you get remembered? How do you get reminded that you forgot to order the termite inspection? You know how you get reminded? You get the call from escrow. Hey, Lance, it's Sally with ABC Escrow, and we got loan docs in, and we're getting ready to close, and lender's ready to fund tomorrow. We're going to close on Friday. Can you do me a favor? Please send me over that termite completion and clearance. Oh, shucks. Ugh. Darn. I knew there was something I was supposed to do. Okay, now that's a long story to get to this one action, but that action taught me order it early. So there it is, order the termite inspection. Turn on the gas, the electric, and the water. Now if the seller's already living in the house, you don't have to do that. Well, that's fine. I was listing a lot of vacant houses with real sellers, not bank-owned stuff. And sometimes utilities were turned. The sellers would turn off the utilities. Like, what are you doing? Well, we're not there anymore. I know, but you don't want your grass to die. Okay, I'll leave the water on, but I'm turning the electric off. Well, your sprinkler timer is electric. Okay, then I'll turn on the electric and I'll turn on the water, but I'm turning the gas off. Why? Leave the gas on. The buyer's going to come through. They're going to want to turn on the water. They're going to want hot water to come out. They're going to want to flip on the heater. They're going to want heat to come out. You're going to have to turn it on again anyway. Turn on the gas. So again, that's my checklist. Septic tank. Has anybody on the video ever gotten to an escrow and then realized at some point into the process, oops, the property's on a septic and I didn't even know it? Okay? Well, guess what this reminds me to do? On every single property that I list for my sellers. And what are we doing now? We're managing our sellers. We're managing our sellers. Okay? And this is reminding me to, at a minimum, ask the question, oh, you know what? Is this property on septic? Oh, yeah, it's on septic. You're kidding me. I had no idea. Oh yeah, wherever the sewer line stops at that house. We're the last person on the block that we didn't get the sewer. Okay? Oh, well, great. I'm glad that you mentioned that to me, because now if you have a house on septic, more times than not, what are you going to need in order to close an escrow? Septic certification. Okay? So there it is. Lawn service. What else we got to do here? Put property in the MLS and make a file. So this is my short list of things to do. Okay? Now I like to do this, and again, I know I'm maybe a little more techie and a little more anal with this than some people, but I like to do this if at all possible while I'm at the property or while I'm actually meeting with the seller. Because sometimes I won't have to do these things. Sometimes I'll be able to say, oh no, they're living in the house. I don't have to do gas, electric, and I'll just complete those actions, take care of them. Or maybe I told them, I promise you I will have a for sale sign in your yard tomorrow before noon. Okay? Anybody ever done that? You just listed the house and you've made a commitment to do something as part of your marketing agreement. And not only have you made a commitment, you've given it a date and you've given it a time. What had better happen tomorrow before noon? I'd better have that sign up, right? So, if I made that commitment, I'm going to edit this action, and I'm gonna, this is actually, I don't know if you guys may, I'll show you something here, you may not have noticed this. At 7 a.m., I'm gonna alarm it. Click OK. One thing before I move on to this next actions. All of these actions are fired for Drew. Back in the day, Drew, my assistant, who now is working on offers on the REO stuff, he got to do all these lovely things. So it's another thing, if you're working with an assistant, and if your assistant is the one who's in charge of the checklist of things to do on a new listing, managing your seller, managing your new listing, the computer will automatically tell, matter of fact, let's go to Drew's calendar. We go to Drew's calendar right now, change this from Lance to Drew, and all of the things that we just told him to do are now sitting there waiting for him to do them. Just like that. Okay? Then if I go to my calendar, because I made a promise I was going to put that for sale sign up tomorrow. So I went to my calendar for tomorrow, and I put an action on my calendar. Very first thing. Oops, I thought I did. What did I do with it? Oops, garbage in, garbage out. I might have made a mistake. Oh, there it is. Let's put that for tomorrow. Okay, I put an action on my calendar. This is Thursday, January 5th. At 7 o'clock in the morning, 123 Main Street, install for sale sign. So I created an appointment for myself. Now, this only works if I get up in the morning and I check my calendar. This only works if before I go home at night, I sit down and I check my calendar. Did I do everything today that I said I was going to do? For example, this is my calendar for today. So, and again, this says, if you're saying, what does this have to do with managing buyers and sellers? This has everything to do with managing buyers and sellers. And it's not just managing buyers, it's managing your business. So this is my calendar today. I had to go to small claims court this morning at 8 o'clock. This was with one of my old sellers. So this is managing us. I had to go to small claims court. Now, did I know last night, before I went to bed, that I was supposed to be in small claims court at 8 a.m. in Moreno Valley on Wednesday? Sure I did. I just didn't wake up and just, oh crud, I'm managing my calendar. So I did that. I had a whole bunch of actions I completed. Small claims court took a lot longer than it was supposed to. From about 12 o'clock to about 2 o'clock, I did a bunch of actions in here. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm doing video training, managing buyers and sellers. When I'm done with that, come over here, right click. We're going to click complete. Put a little note. Great class. Instructor was fantastic. Okay? Now it's done. After this is over, I have an appointment with Daniel from 5 to 6. And then from 6 to 8, assuming I'm not too tired, I'm supposed to go to the gym with my wife. Okay? Now, wait a minute, what's all of this stuff? Well, these are other things that need to get done today. Well, before I leave, I need to go through this entire list, and I need to make sure, does this have to be done today? If it has to get done today, I can't leave. How about this and this and this and this and this and this? Okay? I have to make a conscious decision. And the conscious decision is, do I work late tonight and finish these things? Or are these things a lower priority and it'll be okay if I wait until tomorrow? Okay? You guys make that decision. Because what will happen is tomorrow morning, by the way, let's suppose I've gone through every single one of these actions. And by the way, these are actions and these are calls down at the bottom. But let's suppose I made the decision, hey, all that stuff will keep till tomorrow. Well, then I want to look at my calendar tomorrow. Well, what am I doing tomorrow? I don't want to wait until tomorrow morning to see what I'm doing. I better look at it now. Oh, well, tomorrow I got to go put the for sale sign up at 123 Main Street at 7:30 in the morning because I have an appointment between 8 and noon. I can't do it. So if I don't do it before, it's not going to get done, or somebody else has to do it. And then I can say, hey, I've got this appointment, I've got another appointment. Well, guess what? I'm doing more training tomorrow. Okay? And, wow, these are my actions and calls I have to do tomorrow. I'd like to look at that stuff. I'd like to look at it today and say, okay, what does my Thursday look like? Okay? Real estate agents are notorious for waking up in the morning and having absolutely no idea of what they're going to do today or tomorrow, or God forbid they have any idea what they're going to do next week. That gets back to our business planning, our goal setting, okay? Our prospecting, okay? If you're going, and let's face it, for most of us in this room and watching on video, for most of us, we should be spending the vast majority of our day prospecting for new business. Our open house, whatever it happens to be, we're prospecting. I'm telling you, there's no point in prospecting if I can't easily find the people that I've been prospecting for. It's a waste of time, okay? I want to be able to easily find my hot buyer leads. Double click. 2 clicks, okay? Hot buyer lead. 3 clicks. I have 1 hot buyer lead. It took me 3 clicks to find my hot buyer lead. Okay? I want to find all of my open house leads. Double click. It's already on open house leads. I would have had to type open house. I didn't do that because it was already defaulted on there. But let's pretend it wasn't. There's all my open house leads. Let's just give you a different example. Asset managers. Okay? These are asset management companies that I have associated that way. Let me do it this way. Go to my list. I want to find all of my sources. Okay, perfect example. I went to the 5-star conference last year. And at the 5-star, that's a default servicing conference, it was in Dallas. At the 5-star conference, I put all of these asset management companies in my computer. And the source for those was 5-star, just like open house. Okay? Now, I'm going to be completely honest. If somebody had asked me the next day or 3 or 4 days later, how many name the asset management companies that you made contact with at the 5-star conference last weekend, out of all of these people, I probably could have named maybe 10 or 15 of them. But it looks like there's probably close to 50 of them on here. Okay? But how easy was it for me to find that? So if I now want to go back and I want to contact all of the people I met at 5-star, well, here they are. Keystone Asset Management, there's a phone number. Lighthouse Real Estate Solutions, there's a phone number. Aurora Loan Services, there's a phone number. Okay? And then I can go through and I can click on any one I want. Atlantic Pacific REO. Here we are. Just that simple. Okay? Some of these, let me just go back one. See if I can get lucky and find something. I want to show you an example of something. Maybe this one's got. Good. Okay. Now again, this is kind of my system on steroids, but again, following up with buyers and sellers. What would Keystone Asset Management Company be to me, a buyer or seller? They're a seller. They're an asset management company. They're a bank that has properties to sell. So in our sticking with our theme, managing our buyers and sellers, this is a seller. Now this seller happens to have a website. I don't know what their website is. I couldn't remember off the top of my, I didn't put this contact in here probably 5 years ago, okay? But I took the time to put in their website. So now, if I want to contact Keystone Asset Management, not only do I have a phone number, but if I click on their website address apparently has changed, which kind of stinks for my example, but it would have taken me straight to their website. I've got to try one more, because now I've got to be able to do one more, just to show you how cool this is. And hopefully we'll have Let's see if Nation Style, we have our website on there. Ah, we don't. Okay, give me 2 more tries. Let's see what we find. How about image? Ah, dang, burn it. There's actually a filter I could run that would give me all of these. And we'll try one more. Try to look up integrated, hopefully I have one. Ah, I don't have it. Okay, but let's just pretend. Let's pretend integrated assets or integrated asset services website was, I'll just put it on our website, CB period. Okay, if I had taken the time to put in the information properly, and I'm now working with integrated asset, and I have their number over there, and I want to call them, and I want to sound like I know what I'm doing, and I just click on their website button, and this is going to be our website that's going to pop up. And now when I'm calling my seller, I have my seller's website information in front of me. And I can even say, hey, wow, I love your guys' website, and I'm online right now, and I'm signing up to become one of your agents, or whatever. You take the script to wherever you want it to be. But this is all about managing those prospects. All about managing those prospects. Let me take another one. I'm going to use, Marilyn, how do you spell your last name?
SCHNAGEL.
Oops. Yeah, I'm going to go off track here. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, that should work now. Let's try it again. Okay, SCH. NA, should be close enough. Okay, there you are. Actually, I've got you in my computer a couple of times. Okay, I've got you in twice under Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. I'm going to fix that. It's another nice thing. This is the equivalent of having 2 index cards in your file cabinet with the same stuff. Let's pretend Marilyn is a past seller of mine, somebody that I sold her property 5 years ago. Okay, and I realized in my file cabinet, oh, wait a minute. Actually, I don't have you in here twice. I'm sorry.
It's Martin.
Martin. Okay, never mind. I was going to merge you guys together. Oops. I almost merged you. What I was going to do was going to merge the 2 of you together. I don't want to do that. But so anyway, so let's forget that. Let me just pull up Marilyn. Okay. Now the reason I use Marilyn as an example, and hopefully this example will work, okay, and it does, is Marilyn and I have a history. How long? We've known each other for what? How long?
Many years.
Many years. Okay. Well, I can tell some things about Marilyn based upon my contact management system. And the first time you and I actually spoke was in, it's over here, at 9:31 a.m. on September 10th of 2001.
What did we talk about?
We talked about alpha showing. You apparently wanted to show a house on alpha.
That was my listing.
That was your, or maybe I wanted to show a property
No,
on
it was,
alpha.
you had the rental on it, and
I had the rental.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's 10 years ago. Now, which is actually kind of embarrassing because I think I've known you for 20 years. So I would have liked to have gone back and shown you something from 20 years ago. But now everything that we've done since then, I sent, for example, I remember back in I sent you a form. I sent you we had a grand opening of our office back in November of 2004. I mailed you, snail mailed you an invitation 7 years ago to our office. Then I sent you, this is just a random email. I sent you this email. Just thinking. On June 7th of 2007, I just sent you an email with some properties we have. Okay? So, again, managing your buyers, managing your sellers is, if you use this type of a system, not only is it going to tell you names and phone numbers and addresses and that sort of stuff, the communication aspect of what to do is important as well. And it's truly management. Let me show you one other little thing, and then I'll see if we got any questions, because I could go on for days on this specific type of property. But let's take a look. Okay, this is a property. Again, this is a property that I'm selling. It's property on Pavilion. Okay, my seller. So keeping with our theme, close this up, a little easier to see. It's impossible if you're watching this on video, so you're gonna have to trust me on this. But my seller his name is Charles Bogus, and he's with NRT REO Experts. That's the bank that's selling this property. And anything I needed to do on this listing, kind of like that little track that we ran earlier that said put up a sign and put up a lockbox. These are all the things I still need to do with them. Looks like we're getting ready to close escrow. We need to get some disclosures. There's a loan process going on. We are managing my seller. And in this particular case, we are managing the seller's escrow. It's all done within the context of the management system. And for those of you that are getting glossed over and saying, this is too much, I can't do this, I'm not techie. I'm not going to say this is easy, but with a little bit of practice, this is not hard. Okay, this is not difficult stuff. Okay, but another cool thing, and I'll just kind of show off how extreme this can get, is on this particular property, if I wanted to see pictures of this house, these are all the pictures that we've taken. These are some BPO photos that were taken. So within my contact management system, I can access photos. Okay. Within my seller follow-up system, I can manage offers. These are all the offers that have been submitted on this house. There's an offer, scanned as a PDF. $120,000 offer that was submitted on October 31st, or with the close date of October 31st, written September 24th. It's all there. So if my seller calls me and says, hey, how many offers have we had on this property? I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. Hey, Mr. Hernandez calls me and he's upset. Why is he upset? He says, you never got his offer. Well, not only did I get it, it's right here. What do you want to know about it? Ooh, it's upside down. It's the second time that's happened in these classes. So, at any rate, all of that information is available at our fingertips. If my coordination department, I bet you there's a termite report on this property. How quickly is it going to take me to find a termite report when I'm managing this seller? Took me 3, maybe 4 mouse clicks to get the termite report on this property. This is what I call managing my sellers, or in this case, managing my seller's escrow. Literally, let's just grab another one, and then let's count the mouse clicks together. We wouldn't get a termite report. Let's just grab, okay, Dilbeck. Okay. The escrow officer calls me and says, Lance, I need the termite report on Dilbeck, on 13389 Dilbeck. So I say, okay, let's find it. I have to double click. 133, was it 84? Okay. No, if I don't know the address, I can't pull it up. Oh, there it is, 1338. Okay, there it is, 12389 Dilbeck. Is that the property you want? Yep, that's the one I want. Okay? So I did a couple mouse clicks and I had to type in a couple keystrokes. I go to my links tab, let's just say 3 clicks. Master property folder, 4 clicks. Scroll down. Termite report, 5 clicks. There's my termite report on Dilbeck. Now, it took me 5 clicks. Now, some of those were double clicks, so maybe it took me 10. I'm exhausted, okay? So, this is called managing your buyers and sellers, okay? Now, this is the extreme part, because this is not only managing your seller, because originally when we sat down and we were talking about managing sellers, for the most part, my main goal was, you have a prospect who's interested in listing their property. How are we going to get them from the prospect phase to an actual hot lead phase into an actual buyer phase or a listing contract phase? The same principles apply, okay? Except now that you've got the property listed, and remember what was one of our actions that we do on a new listing? We order a termite report. We get the termite report, we put it on the computer, and we attach it to 13389 Dilbeck, and guess what? It's there forever. Have we ever misfiled anything in a paper file? All the time. All the time. Our property management department up until a year ago had 100% paper files. Things, I need the property management agreement on 123 Main Street and I need it now. Well, Lance, it's not in the file. I know we have it, I've seen it. Okay, well guess when it shows up? 6 months later, someone opens up the file on South Street. Well, who put the 123 Main Street property management agreement in the 123 South Street folder? Happens, right? All the time. So, again, we're going to do a completely separate class on contact management. Okay? That class is going to deal a lot with this type of information. But as it relates to the title of this class, Managing Your Buyers and Sellers, this is, I mean, we could summarize this in 3 minutes, okay? If you're going to take the time to do this, and I know it's open houses, but it's not just open houses. If you're going to prospect expired listings or for sale by owners, or the traditional ones, of course, but if you're going to go out and prospect notice of defaults and notice of sales, or you're going to, hold, sponsor a walkathon, I don't know, I mean, whatever it happens to be. Let's use that for example. You want to be creative. You want to do something for charity. You want to team up with United Way and do a walkathon for breast cancer or something like that. Okay? Well, you're going to put all this time, energy, and effort into doing that, but you're also going to have your Coldwell Banker sponsorship sign there, and you end up with 200 people's names and phone numbers and whatever. And maybe this is inappropriate, I don't know. Let's hope, if it is, don't do it. But you then, after the fact, you get all those 200 people into your system. You generate a really nice letter that says, thank you very much for participating in the walkathon this past Saturday. Everything went to a great cause. You may or may not, and again, this sounds kind of tacky, but maybe it's not for breast cancer. Maybe we got a different thing here. But you may have noticed that Coldwell Banker and Marilyn Schnagel sponsored the event, and if you know anybody who wants to buy or sell, give me a call. You click a button and you send out a bunch of letters. You send out some postcards. You send out an email, or God forbid you pick up the phone and you call them. That's what this is all about. Okay, prospecting and then taking those leads, getting them into something. It doesn't have to be this. It just has to be something. Even if it is index cards. I mean, if that's the best you can do right now. I used to have, when I first got into the business, I had a 3-ring binder. It was about this thick. I would open it up, and I'd open to today, and I'd have anywhere from 5 to 10 index cards, 3x5 index cards, and they were clipped in there. And those were the people that I was calling today. Those were my prospects today. And then I would call them up and say, hey Martin, good to talk to you. You're going to buy this year? And you say, no, I'm not going to buy this year. But why don't you call me in September? So then I go to September, open it up, take your card. Martin said to call him in September. Pop them in there, September 1. Click it. Okay, put my book, done. Right? And then I magically would get to, hey, boy, I can't believe it's been 7, 8, 9 months already. Martin told me to call him again in September. Okay? If that's the best you got, do it. It works great for a lot of people. Okay? It works great. Okay, any questions? Because we are wrapping up. All right, seeing none. Managing buyers and sellers. Now, we're going to do this a little differently. And if you haven't attended the business planning class, it's on video. So if you're watching this on video, stop right now and go watch. And if you haven't already seen the business planning and goal setting class, then you need to go attend and watch the business planning and goal setting, because a lot of what we discussed in that class now flows through over to here. So one of the things that we talked about in that class I might have the, well, I don't have the sheets from that. Let me pretend. Let's just write some numbers up here real quick. Hold tight, let me get a marker. Okay. All right, one of the things we talked about in that class was prospective. Let's just pretend for a moment let's deal with our buyers. We want to manage buyers. Okay, well, one of the things we talked about in our business planning and time management and goal setting class was how are we going to get buyers? Well, one of the ways we said we were going to get buyers was open houses. Okay? So, in that particular session, if you decided that you were going to hold open houses in the 2012 calendar year, and let's suppose you decided that you were going to hold 2 open houses a month, every month for this entire year. Okay, well that's 24 open houses. Let's suppose that that's maybe too many. Maybe I'm only going to do 1.5. So, but at any rate, that's 18 open houses. Let's suppose that's too many. Well, I'm only going to hold 12. I'm going to commit myself only to hold 1 open house a month. Well, that's still 12. And let's suppose some of your open houses have nobody come through. But let's suppose that some of those open houses, if you do it right, you could have 10, 20 people come through your open house. So let's be conservative and say some of them are just duds, but others you really did good, and your average number of qualified is a whole other story. The average number of prospects that come through your open houses is 5. Well, 5, that's 60 people, okay? So if you just did 1 open house a month, and you ended up making 5 contacts, that's 60. Now, if you're only dealing with 1 buyer, you don't need any of this. Because we all can manage 1 buyer. You don't need a computer, you don't need a file cabinet, you don't need much of anything. You could just put them, program, oh, that's technology. I was going to say you could put their name and phone number into your phone, you can write them on a yellow pad, you do whatever you want to do. But we will collectively go broke if we're just managing 1 buyer at a time. So this is how managing these buyers works. Let's pretend over a period of a year, and this is just one source of prospecting. Keep in mind, 1 open house, 1 day a month for 12 months, we're going to get 60 people. Well, what are we doing the other 29 days in the month? Well, we should be doing something else, right? We should be making some type of contact. If you just make a commitment, which by the way, if you make the following commitment, you'll be doing better than most of the real estate agents, not only in our market area, but probably most of the agents working in our office. If you make a commitment to find 1 new prospect a day, just 1, well, you'll end up with 365, or let's suppose you don't work every day, you'll at least end up with probably 250 or 300 prospects in a 12-month period. If our life depended on it, could we go find 1 new buyer or seller prospect a day? Yeah, I think you should be able to find that in the supermarket this evening. Seriously. If you're going to, honestly, this might be a little annoying, and this might not be something that we want to practice as a part of our prospecting rule. But if you're just, if you go to the supermarket buying groceries, and you put on your Coldwell Banker shirt, and you put on the back of it, hey, I'm a realtor, ask me, for information. And then maybe you pass out a couple of business cards in the aisle. I bet you $1 by the end of the day, or within 20 minutes, somebody will say, they might turn a bunch of people off. Okay. The title of our class is Managing Buyers and Sellers. We are going to do a separate course on contact management system. And the contact management system that I use to teach that class, and I think it's coming up in a couple weeks, is actually Goldmine, and this is what you guys have seen on the screen. If you spend any amount of time with me at all, you see this on the screen regularly, because I live in this. And again, this program is called Goldmine. But when we do the contact management training class, you'll hear me talk about other programs. Top Producer is a really good one. I used to use Top Producer 15, 16 years ago. There's a program called ACT out there, which is relatively inexpensive and easy to use. But again, for all intents and purposes, they basically do similar things. Put in people's names, put in people's addresses, phone numbers, follow-up appointments, emails, scheduling, goals, all sorts of crazy things. Having said that, the class that we're doing today is we're going to spend a lot of time in my contact management system, but it is not the contact management class. So, with that being said, I'm going to just kind of give you a brief overview. So our class, as a matter of fact, it's on my calendar. Video training, managing your buyers and sellers. That's what we're doing today. So when I'm talking about managing your buyers and sellers, and this, you could substitute this with anything. You could managing your buyers, managing your sellers, managing your escrows, which people might think, well, that's kind of the same. I'm working with my buyers and sellers. Managing my termite guy, managing my personal life, managing whatever. So from the perspective of where we're going to take this, I'm going to show you some tips and some techniques. Having said that, most everything that I'm going to be talking about in the next hour and a half, we definitely will not go longer than 2 hours, although I can go for 6. For the most part, I'm going to be doing based upon the idea that you will be using a computer software program to do this. Okay? Now, if you're not going to use some sort of software program to do this, it's the same concept as if you were using a file cabinet, because all that this computer program is, I've always wanted to use the visual, it's nothing other than a file cabinet. Okay? When I first got into, in fact, here's my file cabinet with all of my buyers, and here's my drawer that have my sellers. Okay? And the front part of my drawer is sellers that I'm supposed to call today. And in the middle of my drawer, those are the sellers that I'm supposed to call in February. And these are the sellers that are prospects that told me don't bother them until the summertime. Okay? And down here, these are sellers that I've worked with before and closed escrows on. And so the whole concept of the contact management system is really nothing other than taking the file cabinet, and at least from my perspective, getting into an electronic format, which I think challenges a lot of people. When I first got into the business, I can't remember what it was called, but it was expensive. I was introduced to a non-electronic contact management system, and it was basically nothing other than a big customized file cabinet. And it had things like birthdays, and it had what you would imagine. It would have January, February, March, April, May, June. And then if it was your birthday and your birthday was in January, you would get an index card. And that index card would say, your birthday, and when is it? Well, it's June 15th, and then we go to June, and we go to the 15th, and you'd go in the June 15th. Okay? Now, the challenge with that is if you also have a different anniversary date. Maybe I wanted to keep track of the anniversary date on when I sold you your house last. Well, then I would have to have a different category of January through December. And that little file cabinet would be of when did I sell these people, when did their house close escrow. So now I have a separate index card that says, okay, we closed John's house on May 15th of 2010. And then I go into the May 15th, or my May, and that would remind me that every May I want to pull that people out of that card catalog, and I would want to call them, hey, congratulations, it's been the 1-year anniversary since you bought your house, or hey, congratulations, or send them a letter, or maybe, do something like that. So that's old school technology, and that was technology. That was a management system. That was basically a I'm trying to shop here, leave me alone. What are you doing over here? And you get the idea. We all could find one a day. All right, so this is how it's going to work. Let's pretend I'm having an open house, okay? And somebody comes through, and we're just going to call it, you know, John Byer. Okay? I've got John Byer. Oops. By the way, I'm gonna do a lot of what we're gonna do in this class today. I'm going to do very quickly. Okay? Having said that, in other words, when I type something in, I might have a typo, or there may be some problems. I will tell you, as a matter of practice and database management and managing your buyers and sellers, take your time, put it in properly. Okay, for a bunch of reasons. You know, you've all heard the garbage in, garbage out. Well, that's a computer term. If you put, you know, that's the GIGO or the GIGO, whatever, GIGO. If you put bad information in, you get bad information out. A perfect example, matter of fact, I'm going to just add this buyer right here and I'm going to stop. I'm, right now, as we speak in this training, I have my outbox, I have 14,773 emails that I'm waiting to send. In my total contact management system, there's 48,733 contacts in my system. 50,000 almost, okay? Now at the first of every year, I like to do what a lot of people see is you ever get that email from somebody that says Happy New Year from Joe? And you know that Joe sent that same email to a whole bunch of other people. It's not just a special, not to me, okay? Well, I started doing that on January 1st, and I had 20, out of my 48,000 people in the system, I have 21,000 of them that have email addresses. So on Sunday afternoon, this past Sunday, I had 21,000 emails that I was sending. And since then, I've sent a little over 6,000 of the 21,000. I have 14,773 left. The system is shooting out approximately 200 emails an hour, okay? Because if I was to send all 14,000 at once, then I get marked as a spammer, okay? The computer gods up there say, oh,